let's look at a technique that you learn early on in your jiu-jitsu practice, but probably stop using after a certain point, the hip heist. There are a couple of problems that come along with the hip heist, which become more pronounced the more experienced your partner is. Here's the main one. Placido is down, and I'm inside his closed guard, and I establish my hands on his biceps here. And this is all, of course, before I start to stand up. If Placido is able to swim his arms to the inside position, get my hands to the mat, he has the ability to come up to the hip heist, right? So he takes his arms up, starts to look to bring himself up to an elbow here, and then get to a place where either he's where he is here with his arm over, or with his arm on this side of my shoulder. Okay, and when it's classically taught, it's taught in this fashion where he now controls my wrist here, looks to rotate and take me through, and all is great. What ends up happening is, after a certain point, the person on top understands that if they can kind of track your head as you move, it's very difficult to get up. So like when Placido goes to swim my arms to the floor, and he goes to move his way out to sit up for the hip heist, he finds that my head is kind of in the way all the time, and I end up driving him flat. So this is one of the reasons why the hip heist tends to fail. In order to be able to use the hip heist to enter into the clamp, we have to resolve this problem first. So let's just talk about how we do that, and then we'll move forward into how we enter into the clamp. Okay, so we're going to bring our partner's hands here down to the mat. When we go to get up, instead of when we go to get up here, we could just build to an elbow like this, kind of throw our arms up in the hopes of being able to get our head past the line of our partner's head. But it's pretty tough to do. So as I go to do that, Placido kind of tracks my head here. It's just going to be difficult. So instead, once our partner's hands are on the floor, we're going to put a cross frame in, and we're going to focus first on building to an elbow. Okay, so before we even start to heist, we're going to take our elbow back behind us. You're going to bring your elbow back to the line of your shoulder. Then you're going to roll up just onto your elbow. Okay, this is a much easier job than taking your whole body way out to the side, especially when your elbow is way out here and coming up. So as we're here, we create this cross frame. We're going to take our elbow back behind us, and we're going to prop to this position. Now, we can't stay here because our partner can take their rear arm, especially if they collapse this frame, and start to reach through, body lock, or worse, get a grip on our wrist and start to break us down. So once the hands go to the mat here, we're going to create our cross frame. This is going to definitely help us to be able to get up, because keeping distance between our two heads makes it hard for him to reach around to get the tight waist or the wrist. We're going to build to here, and then from here, we're going to shoot our arm past our partner's body like this. Okay, I'm going to post our hand on the mat. We're going to heist from here. When we go to heist, we're going to unlock, we're going to plant our foot on the floor, and essentially what we're doing is our goal is to take our partner over. The problem is you're probably not going to take over a person who is experienced here. It's difficult. So what we're using the hip heist to do is essentially create kazushi that's going to allow us to set up an attack on the opposite side. We're going to plant our foot. We're going to drive our hips up. We're going to control our partner's elbow. We don't have to go all the way down to the wrist. And we're going to bump here in order to simply change the angle. Now you'll remember that one of the things that's a prerequisite for the clamp is getting your hips to the outside. Well, I've done that. My hips are now on the outside of Placido's hips on the far side. I'm going to swim this arm back through. We can establish an overhook here. It's totally fine. We're going to recline back off of our failed hip heist sweep with the idea of taking our hand here to the inside position. When Placido goes to bring his hands back to the inside position, he finds that my knee is in the way. We have an overhook here. We're going to make use of it. From here, plant the foot on the floor. We're going to hip out. Now we can retract it, put the heel and knee together, use the hand to support, or control our partner's collar tie. And we're in a place where we've got the good connection that we needed. So we begin with a hip heist that either we intend to fail with, or in the process of trying to do it, it fails. He goes biceps. We go inside position one. We take a cross frame. It's going to help to keep his head away from us. We look to create a little space with the scissor, prop onto an elbow. Now from here, we shoot our arm around the corner as we build up to a hand here, and our hips come up. We're going to commit our hips to our partner's hips with the goal of bumping them out in this direction here. Our left arm comes back around the corner. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit for effect here, but you do need to be able to clear your partner's head. Okay, you don't have to take your arm in this like giant arc here. It's enough to simply slip the head, and we're going to establish an overhook. When we go to sit back down, very important that you don't sit square. You take advantage of the fact that your hips are at an angle, so you push your body away, and now from here, this knee slips in front of your partner's shoulder relatively easily. The hand comes here to your partner's tricep. If you feel like that's too difficult, you go down to your partner's wrist. We have the beginnings of a basic clamp here, but we're going to look to feed our leg across. Here's an important note on the overhook. Just rotate a little this way, please. There are benefits to having an overhook and working from here. But especially when you're first learning to use the clamp in this sort of position, you'll often find that your own arm gets in the way of using your knee to cover your partner's shoulder. So like you feel like you're tighter here, which you are, but because you're not controlling your partner's shoulder in the way that we talked about, they actually will end up posturing. And when he goes to bring his head away, now this overhook becomes less effective. Once his elbow goes to the inside, now it's done. So for that reason, we're just using the overhook as a way of establishing this initial connection. And as I feel like he's going to pull away, I need to be very quick to get this left knee over the top and control. Now here we are, and we're ready to go. We can start to enter into our attacks. Okay, one last time with this. We'll show a reverse angle. I don't know if that will be helpful for people or not. We'll try. Okay, so we go one here. We look to cross frame, build, and this is the position we're initially starting with. When we go to bump, we need to make sure that we're at least selling this sweep. The unlocked foot goes on the floor, hips turn over, and we make sure this leg kind of cuts back, okay? We just want to get a kazushi out in this direction. Now, we come over the top, and you can whizzer. Again, the hip position, you can see, we're not square here sitting back. This is a big problem. Instead, we keep our hips to the outside, and as our partner goes to drive us flat, which is actually what they want to do, they find that they do so with our knee in front. You can see here the whizzer. We're going to retract it, take it out, get good control over our partner's shoulder. Now from here, engage our hips, and we're ready to start our various attacks from this position. So you can use the hip heist, a relatively low percentage sweep from closed guard, either knowing it's going to fail, or when it does fail, not trying to insist on it or returning back to the guard, but instead optimizing your position, landing with your hips to the outside, and then you've got a good entry into the